travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabocha, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02. Let's walk the talk.
All right, it's now 23 minutes before 11 o'clock. So I told you earlier on about two more senior officials from the Higher Education Department who have now sent letters to Parliament, and they're saying, well, we didn't really participate in this so-called independent panel that the Minister of Higher Education, Nobuhle Nkabane, claimed helped her appoint the SETA board chairpersons. So there are two senior officials who've now denied their involvement in a panel to appoint these board chairpersons. And this is after Advocate Karabo already dismissed the Higher Education Minister's claims that he led the selection process. How many more lies has this minister told in Parliament? And for those of you that may probably not remember the context of the story, before I bring in Karabo Khaukhau, who's the DA national spokesperson, let me just remind you of what happened and give you context. Remember, Minister Nkabane appointed board chairpersons of SETAs. The list of her appointments was leaked, revealing that she has appointed Gwede Mantashe's son and Gwede Mantashe's advisor as board chairpersons of the SETAs. Now, what was curious about those appointments was that the list was riddled with politicians. She had appointed to the boards of these SETAs these politicians, and curiously appointed Mantashe's son and Mantashe's advisor. Do you remember which ministry she worked for before becoming the Higher Education Minister? Well, she worked with Gwede Mantashe. She was Gwede Mantashe's deputy minister at Mineral Resources. And after being promoted to be the Minister of Higher Education, she then appoints Gwede Mantashe's son and Gwede Mantashe's advisor to be board chairs. Is it a coincidence? Now, she has tried to defend these appointments. In fact, she was asked tough questions in Parliament and she withdrew the appointments of board chairpersons. So she cancelled that and said, forget about that. And she said the decision to withdraw follows calls for greater transparency. But she wasn't off the hook just yet. Because she was caught. And she decided, oops, I've been caught here. Let me just withdraw these appointments. And she thought that would be it. Parliament wanted to know who advised her to make such problematic political appointments. And she claimed, well, it was an independent panel that helped me. Then she was asked for the names of the independent panel members, and she was refusing to disclose them until pressure mounted. In fact, it was legal advice, even to her, that said, ma'am, you have to reveal the names of the independent panel. So when she revealed the name, and this is the funniest thing now, when she reveals the names, then you realize that she has actually lied to Parliament. This panel wasn't really independent. That's the first thing. It wasn't really independent. Because the chairperson of the inquiry, according to her and the list that she sent to Parliament, Advocate Karabo, came out publicly to say, I didn't chair the panel as claimed by the minister. He said the minister, in fact, intended to appoint him as chair of the committee, but that never materialized. So he was surprised that suddenly the minister is including his name on the list of panel of this independent panel members. So the minister was then forced to apologize to Advocate Mutau for, and I quote here, any inconvenience, reputational discomfort or misunderstanding that may have arisen, right? End quote. Because she was caught lying and exposed. She misrepresented Advocate Mutau's role because she could clearly see that without the advocate's name, that panel was never going to pass the test of independence. Well, there are now two more people who have come out from her own office saying, we were not part of this independent panel. So let's bring in Karabo Khaukhau now, who's the DA national spokesperson. She's the person really that's been fighting this in the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and pushing for accountability from the president on the part of the minister. Karabo, thank you for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Clement. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to your listeners.
I have honestly lost count of the many times the minister, one, has apologized, and the many times that there are people who have come to contradict what she has actually said in Parliament. What do you understand about these now 2 letters that have been written of these senior officials in the department saying, yes, we were on that list, but we didn't really help decide who should be the board chair of a SETA?
It's actually 4 people who've written, 3 who are saying no. So the 3 people who are saying no are, one, Rulani Ngwenya, who you would know is the DDG for corporate services. The second person is Ubabsishi Ngubane, who is Umabuza Ngubane, who is the Chief Director for SETA Coordination. This is the same gentleman who, on the meeting on the 30th of May, when I asked him what his involvement was, said he knew nothing, only for the minister to list him on the panel, and only for him to now also write again to Parliament to say Marana was never on that panel. I don't know what the minister is talking about. But what was also interesting is that the minister's chief of staff, Nelisiwe Simane, also wrote and said, she was never part of the panel. She even goes to a step further to say maybe the minister is confused about which panel sat on which panel.
Wait, what do you mean? This is the minister's chief of staff.
Exactly, my boy. I want to quote this for you, Clement. Let me just open this document. Simane is the minister's chief of staff, and you know we're in trouble if the chief of staff of the minister herself says, has maybe what is going on. It is a grave indication, because nothing happens in your office without the chief of staff, unless then the chief of staff, in writing in this letter to deny, says this was all a cover-up, that the people whose names were placed there as a cover-up of a non-existing panel. Simane says, I would list point 4 of her letter. I quote, I did not participate in the sector and recommendation, in the selection and recommendation of SETA Accounting Authority chairpersons, but participated in the process for the recommendation of SETA's accounting authorities, but not the board chairpersons. But she was not in the board chairperson. And then number 5, she says, the minister's list of panel members was all-inclusive and did not make distinction between participation in the CEOs and participation in the board chairperson's recommendations. She then says, furthermore, in conclusion, as a public servant, I was not paid for additional remuneration for my participation in the CEOs. So here the chief of staff saying there are 2 processes for the CEOs, and then the process of the actual board members and the board chairperson. So if the chief of staff itself is even saying, what's going on, that is a clear indication that there is more than what meets the eye. That not only has the minister lied initially about the composition of this panel, it's existing, number 1. Number 2, its independence and its comprising of experts. But it also means that in Fikile Mbalula's sentiments yesterday, in protecting her and saying she did not lie or break any law, that the ANC is not interested in holding her accountable, that to them it's all systems that go as it is normal, because so that they are all corruption apologists, really, that they do not hold people accountable.
Wait, did Fikile Mbalula say the minister didn't break any law? I missed that.
She said that in the press briefing yesterday. Mbalula said 2 things. He said, 1, the minister did not lie, and 2, that the minister did not break any law, and that my attempts and the Democratic Alliance's attempts to hold the minister accountable are all a matter of performative politics.
That's interesting, because I interviewed Mtumiseni Ntuli on Face the Nation last week, and he admitted that he had a meeting, because he's the caucus leader, and he says, I sat down with the Minister of Higher Education, and after I sat down with her to hear her own explanation, I realized that, in fact, she did misrepresent Parliament, and therefore that actually is against even what we expect and how we expect ANC leaders to behave. So Fikile Mbalula then is in direct contradiction of the caucus leader in Parliament. And I guess now you have to ask, who do you believe? Because has Fikile Mbalula sat down with the Higher Education Minister? Because Mdumiseni Ntuli sat down with the Higher Education Minister and listened to her explanation and decided that, okay, there has to be disciplinary action here or some action of sorts, which is what Mdu told me last week, that I've written to Luthuli House to say, this is a problem. This minister misrepresented facts in parliament, so we have to consider taking action.
You see, so that the fact that the chief wrote to Luthuli House saying the things you were saying, only for Luthuli House to yesterday, before the media at a press briefing, protect her and deny any lying and breaking of law by the Secretary General of Luthuli House. That is an indication that even Ndumiseni's sentiments that were sent to Luthuli were not taken seriously. That Ndumiseni, as the chief of staff, saw that very there's a case here, that Karabo did not go to ethics and the public protector and did not go to SAPS and subsequently the Hawks for nothing. That indeed there is a case here that Minister Nkabane must account for. Only for Luthuli House to say, Bona, no, she did not break any law. If anything, he even said it's a case of a personal political vendetta that is based on performative politics on behalf of the DA. That's what Fikile Mbalula said yesterday. But the bottom line here, Clement, is this. This is nothing new. We're not shocked that Luthuli House via Fikile Mbalula is taking the stance they're taking right now as far as cushioning Nkabane from accountability, because they've done that for years. That is in their nature. They've done it with Nkandla only to come back and tell us they had to justify a fire pool that didn't exist altogether with Nkandla. So we're not shocked we're not shocked that that's what's going on. What we say, Runa, as the DA, remains. We're not going to be deterred by the ANC. If President Ramaphosa refuses to fire Nobuhle Nkabane, which last week Friday I also called for her to resign, I told her that she does not need to wait for the president to fire her. If indeed she is remorseful of the mess that she has created for herself at the expense of the people of this country, then she can resign before the president fires her. The president still hasn't fired her. And if the president refuses, it doesn't deter her efforts. Ethics will rule, the public protector will rule, but also we're glad that the Hawks has taken this up. Because fraud, misrepresenting facts to Parliament deliberately on multiple occasions is tantamount to fraud. Fraud, one, and two, being in breach of the codes of ethics, the code of conduct and ethical behavior of members of the executive and parliament is a statutory offence under Section 26 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures, Act 4 of 2004. Those things must be investigated. So we're not deterred. But again, this is a clear indication to the people of South Africa here that President Ramaphosa is again at a crossroads where he needs to choose between Luthuli House, the ANC, and the people of the Republic of South Africa.
Yeah,
and the clear is clear.
Yeah.
The choosing is clear.
Yeah. Okay, guys, come on. Let's be honest here. Look at the behavior of Minister Nobuhle Nkabane. How do you justify that this woman is still in office? How do you justify, as the head of state, someone like this who is in your cabinet? They've embarrassed you. They've embarrassed this government time after time. I mean, I've given you the context. First of all, in fact, I haven't even played you clips of her showing terrible attitude towards Parliament, where she's just eating and she tells the committee chair, go Google. When the committee chair asks her a question, well, go Google it, find it on Wikipedia. She has demonstrated just belligerent attitude towards Parliament, which the president called her out on. Okay, fine. This person lies to Parliament. Oh, encyclopedia, not Wikipedia. This person misrepresents facts and says, appoint people. Gwede Mantashe's son is Gwede Mantashe's advisor. When she realizes that she's in trouble, because even the president wants to know what happened there, what's going on here, then she withdraws those names and then she says, okay, but it wasn't just me. It was an independent panel that decided on those board chairs. And then she sends names of the independent panel, and it's not really independent. She's just thrown in names of people. He says Advocate Mutau was the chairperson, was not even the chairperson. That's a lie. Then she puts her chief of staff there. Then she puts people in her department. Number one, that proves that that panel is not independent, because these are the people in your office. But more than that, the people have come out now to say, we were not part of the panel. How many lies must this minister tell, even to Parliament, for action to be taken against her? Can we be objective about this? Whether you hate or you love President Cyril Ramaphosa, how do you justify that he's not acting on this? How do you justify that this minister, after her behavior in Parliament and her actions, is justified to stay in office? 011-883-0702. We'll wrap up this chat after the break with Karabo Khaukhau. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702.
Travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebohile Mabotja, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
All right, 6 minutes before 11 o'clock. Here's that clip that what Karabo Khakhau was talking about. I missed it yesterday during the briefing. This is what Fikile Mbalula said yesterday about the Minister of Higher Education.
As the ANC, we have noted and addressed the matters that arose that affect the Department of Higher Education. With regard, in particular, the matter of the SETAs. The legal framework and ministerial discretion with regard to the Skills and Development Act of 97 of 1998 empowers the Minister of Higher Education and Training in consultation with the National Skills Authority to appoint members of the accounting authorities of sector education and authorities SETAs, including chairpersons, Section 11. Importantly, nowhere in the Act or accompanying regulation does it require the establishment of an independent panel to advise or execute such appointments. The Minister is fully empowered to perform these functions independently. In an act of enhanced governance, in a sincere attempt to promote transparency and broad consultation, the Minister chose to constitute a voluntary unpaid advisory panel staffed by civil servants and an outside chairperson. This was done in good faith to ensure that merit-based and impartial guidance informed the decisions.
This country, I'm telling you. Oh, no law requires that she must have even an independent panel. Then why did she tell Parliament that she had an independent panel? Why didn't she own up and say, well, the law actually doesn't require that I have an independent panel. I decided to appoint Mantasha's son and Mantasha's advisor as board chairs of SETAs. Why didn't she take ownership of that instead of lying? And Fikile Mbalula wants to protect her? Karabo, what's the next thing now? So will you guys is she expected to come back to Parliament at some point, this minister?
Yeah, so you'd remember that there was a request made in committee that what must happen next is that panel that she says she appointed must appear before Parliament. So on Friday, all of them are coming. Everybody who even said they were not part of it, they must come before the portfolio committee to explain their non-involvement. But there's one other piece of information that must be considered here when at Clement. I got Minister Nkabane said the chairperson of this panel was Advocate Teremudau. But the appointment letter that she sent to Fikile Ngubane, who never formed part of it, not Mabuza Ngubane. Mabuza Ngubane says, I did not form part of this thing. The minister wrote to me, but I did not respond because Mina wasn't going to part. That letter appoints him as the chairperson. So now we have two chairpersons of the board. We have two chairpersons of the panel who are now. Which one is which? Yes. And Vele, if the minister wrote them herself, the originator of these letters is obviously her secretary, who she was from all along from the other part. So those things must be ventilated on Friday. We want to understand what's going on. We want to get to the bottom of it. And again, this does not also dissolve the entire department away, because the presentation that came before Parliament was authorized by the Director General, right? The presentation that says there was a panel. So if the DG also agreed to be presented before Parliament that there is a panel, but yet we're now asking whether a panel exists or not, even he must explain, because what was weird was on the meeting of the 30th of May, when I asked the whole department, are they all saying they know nothing about the panel? They all said they know nothing about the panel at all. But then there was a presentation before Parliament. So who made that presentation? So the minister's lying is not lying alone, but all of this will be ventilated on Friday.
All right, Karabo Khaukhau, dear national spokesperson, thank you for speaking to us. After the news at 11 o'clock, I'll take some of your WhatsApp voice notes as we...
Travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabotja, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.